What's going on? What's going on, guys? This is your man, Real Deal, Steele, coming to you live. Good to see you guys. We got a lot of familiar names in the chat, some other folks, some new folks, and a whole lot more. Great to see you guys. You're watching Steele Live. I'm Steele. Above me there is my esteemed colleague, friend, and co-host, Dogecoin millionaire Nick Balls. We've got a great show lined up for you tonight. We've got some really interesting stuff to tackle, some amusing stuff to tackle tonight. So just strap in, put your feet up, get relaxed, get cozy, whether it's with your herbal tea or your stiff cocktail or something in between, because we're going to get down to it, boppers. If you haven't smashed that like button, please take a moment to do so. It's the number one thing you can do to help a channel like this ascend essentially through those tricky YouTube algorithms, right? Also, if you're brand new here, please hit subscribe. Join our awesome little community here. We've got the best community here. I know I'm a bit biased, but we've got the best quality community here, and we would love to have you be a part of it, just as long as you're okay with us being a little weird. We definitely get a little weird here. If you haven't become a member yet, you can become a member now for just as little as $4 a month, just $1 a week. $1 a week. I can't go any lower, folks. That's where my limbo goes. So, and I do a lot of membership-only streams, things like that. So it's another way to support the channel and get some extra value out of it. And if you feel compelled to super chat throughout the duration of this broadcast, it's obviously really hugely appreciated for all my time and efforts put in. Feel free to ask whatever questions, comments you'd like for myself or Nick, and we will field those to the best of our ability. With that being said, Nick, what is going on up there, man?
Hey, what's up, Steven?
Hey.
You know what today was?
No.
Today, I totally forgot.
Yeah.
Today was Sweetest Day.
Oh, I did. Okay. I was reminded of this. Yes. Mm-hmm.
I received this t-shirt today from my girlfriend as a Sweetest Day present, and 100 cool points to anybody in the chat who can tell me this is actually a Doge on the shirt.
I'm seeing that. Yeah, no, I see it now that I look a little.
Okay.
Examine. Yeah.
But it's from something very, very specific. I don't think I can get the. I'm not going to be able to get the name in there because it won't come up on camera. But it is from something very specific. If you can guess or get what this is from in the chat, 100 cool points, because this was one of my favorite shows growing up as a kid. And it turns out they're coming out with a live action version of it on Netflix here pretty soon.
It looks,
so there's a hint
it looks really familiar to me, but I just can't place it. Maybe someone in the chat can. We'll give them a chance before you tell us, because I'm curious about that. And by the way, Nick, you still, even though we communicate all the time, you still haven't sent me
You're right.
The address. So
I will.
Send me the address. Send me the address. Send me the size, and I will send you the Steven Steele hoodies. And you guys, the Steven Steele hoodies look great. In fact, I'm gonna wear one. I don't know why I haven't worn one on the air yet, but I'll wear one on the air, and we'll both wear them. We'll both wear them on the air,
okay.
And
cool.
So people can see what the gear looks like.
Will got it.
What?
Will got it. 100 cool points to Will.
Oh, Cowboy Bebop. Duh. Okay, yes, Cowboy Bebop. Fantastic, man. Fantastic. That was an excellent animation series. How many years did that go?
I think it only ran for like 5 years. Maybe a little less, maybe like 4 years.
90s, right? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Did they make a full-length film?
Movie, yeah.
Yeah.
I saw it in theaters.
And who was the protagonist? Who was the main actress?
In the live action?
Yeah.
I don't know who. The only actor that I'm aware of in the live action is the guy from Harold and Kumar.
Oh yeah.
So, actually, you know what? I'm really surprised. I didn't know this. Maybe I did know this. It was only one season.
Cowboy Bebop?
Yeah, it was 26 episodes, but it was in one season.
Oh, wow. So that's what gave the impression that it was a few seasons.
Yeah, I thought it was.
So many
I
episodes.
saw it over the. Yeah, when I first watched Cowboy Bebop, it was on.
MTV, wasn't it? Or
it was,
VH1?
No, it was on the late night Cartoon Network. I forgot what they used to call that. I can't remember. They used to air it on
Adult Swim.
Cartoon Network. I think it was Yeah,
It was called something
Adult
else at
Swim.
the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's
But
been a lot of pretty good stuff on Adult Swim that have been short-lived over the years.
oh yeah, that was like the time, man. That was like it was 19. Cowboy Bebop came out in 1998, and that period for Adult Swim was just freaking amazing. That was so much good stuff. Space Ghost was going on.
Oh yeah, Space Ghost was so good.
Aqua Teen Hunger Force was going on. It was such a great time.
Yeah,
So good.
and then there was a very short-lived, I think it was one season about 3-4 years ago called World Peace. Did you ever watch World Peace?
No, was it an animated show or?
No, it's like a very bizarre sketch comedy, but it was pretty spicy. I'd describe it as pretty edgy, and maybe that's why it's not on the air anymore. But it was very original.
Is it a Tim and Eric thing?
It was kind of in that style, but it wasn't them. But it stylistically, it kind of had that. I don't know if anybody in the chat knows what I'm talking about, but it was called World Peace. Maybe just do a search for World Peace Adult Swim. It'll pop up.
Oh, I think I know. This was what was it called? That one guy. I can't remember that guy. He's like super out there, and he's kind of styled after. I know who this guy is. I know a guy that he works with too.
Oh, you do?
Yeah.
Oh wow. Yeah, yeah. Some of those skits were really funny, man. King Cobra, I like that name. Welcome to the channel.
There we go. Thank you, whoever came up with that. Toonami was what it was called.
Oh, Tsunami. Me, you, Rock Lobster, welcome back. Crypto Daniel 71, Will the Ruler, Michael Toscato, Mr. Thunder, Mother Trucker, I love it. Alan Schneider, Larry Ramirez, Emperor Doge, Sublime Mad Dog, Larry Ramirez, Doodle Doo, Alien Babies Podcast, welcome. At Doge Extra, welcome back. Audio Freak. I think I got everyone that's active in the chat for now. Make sure I didn't overlook it. Dylan McDougall from across the way in the Great Down Under. Good to see you in the mix. Frank, good to see you. Mike Tracy, of course. Yeah. If I left anyone out, I apologize. But Hector the Dude, there's one. There we go. Okay. I think we got to about to everyone there. So what's changed the market since? Not a whole lot's changed in terms of last time we talked. But go ahead.
Did just happen actually.
Okay, go ahead.
It happened. Let me see. This was at 21:55, right around there, somewhere around that time. Bitcoin just hit a golden cross pattern on the 5-minute chart. The last golden cross happened back on the 14th and lasted for a period of a day and 8 hours. So yeah, I this is just what I think is going to happen. I think that the ETF launch on Monday is going to be kind of epic, and we'll take Bitcoin at least to because right now it's not far off from previous all-time high.
Right.
It's about 6% off of previous all-time high right now, and the run that it's had in just the past few days. I mean, it's crazy where Bitcoin has gone over the past, even just the past week. It's up like 12.5%.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that this week should be pretty epic.
Yeah, I agree, pretty epic. And I know that you have to go early in about 20 minutes tonight. And I just had an idea, since you have to go early. I think we'll try something out kind of new tonight, guys, after Nick departs. I know that right now, or it's about to start or starting to right about now, that Mark Cuban is actually in a Twitter Spaces with some very prominent personalities and leaders within the Bitcoin community. Some of them definitely would be described as Bitcoin maximalists. And he's kind of going back and forth with them about not only Bitcoin, but Dogecoin as well. So it looks like this is probably going to go on a while over there. So probably what I will do, everyone just stay here. Okay, firstly, stay here. But what I'm going to do is patch through. I'm probably going to put the audio of the Twitter Spaces over my microphone here for everyone to hear, and then I can give some fun commentary while we're kind of listening to that together. We'll try it out. We'll see how that goes. But
you know who I did that with? I did that with gosh, who was? I forget his name. I don't watch him as much anymore because he doesn't stream as much, and he's not Dogecoin specific as much anymore. We were gonna try and have him on here, but it never worked out. Trader Talks. When Elon Musk did the whole B-word event, we did a live coverage of it. He like patched the call through so we could listen.
oh, okay,
Cool.
okay,
Yeah, it was pretty cool.
yeah. So yeah, we'll give that a try, guys. Anyway, if that's still going in 15 minutes or so, I'd like to give a greetings to. I thought I saw him in the chat here. Oh yeah, Geeks Anonymous, Zook. Good to see you, my friend. Zook is a.
What up, Zook?
Good to see you, Zook. Zook's a great guy. Zook's a great guy, man. I remember when we had him on the air here the night everything went down with the upcoin thing when it went away, when the creator went away and all that kind of stuff. We don't need to rehash any of that. But Zook was one of the main developers on that project. Came forthrightly, was just trying to figure it out, just like we were in real time. And he was very forthright and very kind. And from what I understand, he has since been one of the main two people that have taken over that project. And just to be clear, because I know people try to, play gotcha with this kind of stuff. This is not I'm not endorsing the project or blasting it either way. I'm just telling you guys what's going on. And Zook, from what I could tell, has been doing a really, really good job with it. And now a community-owned thing. And he's
Zook actually, he held it together.
Yeah.
Surprisingly well.
Yeah, I agree.
A big round of applause for how Zook handled that whole situation, because he did it. Yeah, I think he did it a lot better than I could have.
Oh, that's a lot of pressure to be under. Yeah. And
yeah.
Speaking of which, I mean, to be in that kind of a hot seat when you have no idea what's going on, just like the rest of us. And then but yeah, he's done a very, very marvelous job. And from my impression of him, let me put this in there because I've never met Zook in real life, but all my interactions, my impressions with him, everything I've seen, my conclusion is that he's a super stand-up, straight shooter of a guy.
He was always like super duper nice to me personally.
Yeah,
I had some interactions with him, and yeah, he's always been a cool dude to me. So
yeah. So big props to Geeks Anonymous, aka Zook. This Golden Cross, this Bitcoin Golden Cross that you speak of, what is it telling you? Tell me two things. What is your gut? What is your gut telling you on the near future trajectory of Bitcoin, and from a TA standpoint, what is it telling you?
So I actually use the same free plugin for. I use a bunch of different plugins, but one of the plugins that I use for TradingView, I found this out. I got it from Miles, actually. Miles G. Shout out to Miles G Investments for getting me onto this one. If you're on TradingView, you can get it for free right now. It's called Golden/Death Cross space 200 SMA, 50 SMA, 20 SMA, and then I think there's more, but I can't see it. So I use that to track golden crosses and death crosses on various time patterns. It's more applicable to Bitcoin on the daily, but I find that the golden cross, death cross pattern actually helps a ton on the 5 minute. I apply the golden cross, death cross, trajectory to the 5 minute chart all the time, and it plays out great. Now, occasionally you will get a golden cross that negates a death cross, or vice versa on a shorter time chart, where you might get on the 5 minute chart you might get a death cross followed very quickly by a golden cross.
Right.
This does not feel like one of these events. Like I said, the last golden cross that was opened on October 14th at about 2200 hours, and the death cross closed on October 16th.
Right.
At 6:20 in the morning. So I just personally, I feel that this golden cross on the 5 minute will be open throughout Monday, at least.
Right.
I'm sure it'll be open for tomorrow for sure, but I think this Golden Cross is going to go ballistic on Monday and possibly be open through Tuesday. And this might be the pattern that breaks. This might be the Golden Cross on the 5-minute that I'm looking at that breaks Bitcoin's all-time high.
Interesting. You know, this is extremely exciting to even entertain that this is a pretty decent probability. So what you're saying, Nick, is Monday, Tuesday, it's looking like could be another massive breakout day for Bit.
Yeah, just with the initial launch of the ETF, I don't see why not. Now, of course, there's a possibility that the lead up that we've been seeing can be. We know how easily Bitcoin is, and all of crypto is affected by buy the rumor, sell the news type of a situation. That could very well be what it is leading into. On Monday, there could be a big correction.
Right.
I'm not negating that. I'm not saying that's not going to happen. But just the way the pattern has played out so far, where there was a big, open Golden Cross followed by a shorter Death Cross, followed by a brand new Golden Cross that just opened up. It looks good to me. I mean, it looks good to me, and I don't see why that would change. But yeah, I mean, I think a lot of it is market sentiment and how people are feeling, and people want to see Bitcoin go to 100K. I mean, that's the feeling of the world is like Bitcoin is going to 100K.
Right.
And these types of events, these ETFs and all this stuff, this is what this is the kind of factors that play into it.
Yeah. That's very, very exciting. Just hearing you talk there, Nick, I thought of a really, really good name for a metal band, Golden Death Cross.
I have a great name for a black metal band.
Yeah.
I've always wanted to create this, and I never have. It's called Pontius Pilate and the Nail Drivers.
Oh my gosh, that's so good. Like on many levels, that's really good. That's awesome. Scott says Mark Cuban arguing with Bitcoin Maxis in Twitter Space right now. I don't know. What do you say? Should we patch this through pretty soon? I don't know.
I'm only gonna be on for another 10. Fine. Yeah, put it on.
Okay. Let's see if we can hang tight, guys. Let's see what's going on here, and if maybe Nick and I will give some smartassery commentary. So let's see if we can do this.
Here we go. Here's when I'm going to come in. Okay, so firstly, they're not really competing, Mark. I know you think they are, but let me ask you something about this.
Wait.
Let me know. You guys, let me know if the levels are too high or what.
I've started tens of businesses, and pretty much all of but maybe one or two have worked that I've started. All right? And the one thing an entrepreneur has to learn not to do is lie to themselves and think they're infallible. Because every single business I've ever seen where the people who are leading the charge think it's infallible have failed. And so if you think you're infallible, it ain't going to work. Because
I didn't say that. I just said they're not competing.
Yeah, not having any competition is kind of the equivalent of saying you're infallible.
Bro, no one leads the network. It's decentralized, bro. We don't have any leaders here. But that's the whole point of Bitcoin.
Well,
anyway, let me. What I wanted to ask you, Mark, is
go ahead.
So, you said one of the problems that Bitcoin has is that people hold it and they don't want to spend it because they're worried about it going up in value.
Correct.
Okay. Why are people buying Dogecoin? Because they think it's stable?
No, because it's fun. They're part of a community. They have fun with it. It's like going to an amusement park and they have a chance to make some money. And if they're not going to make any money, they can go buy Mavs gear or something else. They can go to an AMC movie. It's fun.
Losing money isn't fun. Nobody likes losing money. I would say, just a rough estimate, that 100% of people buying Dogecoin are doing it because they think it's going to go up in value, because they hear you talk about it on Ellen or Elon Musk talk about it on SNL.
No, when you hear me talk about it, I compare it to a lot. I say it's better than a lottery ticket. I say it's a cheap way to learn crypto. I say it's a fun community to be part of. People like to tweet and on Instagram and on TikTok talk about going to the moon and do memes. It is
going to the moon because they want it to go up. They want it to go up.
Fun, but it's fun, and
when it goes up,
you don't have to spend a lot of money to play. You get a Robinhood account, you open it up, $25, and you can spend, my son, my 12-year-old son, I trade for him, he'll spend $6 on fuck around with it and talk about it with his friends and love every minute of it, cheap price of admission, and then he can use that money now that Robinhood's opened up the wallet just to walk up and spend it at AMC or at a Mavs game. That's fine.
Okay, I mean, pretty much everything you've described, he could equally do with Bitcoin.
No, you can't. No, you can't.
And you can have fun with it.
Actually, you can do something a whole lot better. You can buy a Raspberry Pi and teach him how to put it together, and then
No,
load $100 worth of Bitcoin into, and he can open a channel.
Yeah, he's already buying Ethereum, so he's set there. But we'll see what happens when they go to proof of stake, and we've had that discussion. But
Mark, I got a question for you if you want to entertain it. When you look at this bond market, right, and it's all compressed down to nothing %, how do you see that ending?
I think, they'll ease, they'll increase interest rates slowly as the market allows them to. The price of stocks will go down. There'll be a correction of some sort, like there always is, and then things will balance out.
So as the entire planet is levered to their eyeballs right now, and interest rates are at nothing %, you think that central banks, you actually believe central banks are able to raise interest rates and that the economy can handle that?
Okay, so first, let's dissect what you just said. You actually believe that central banks, you're creating a boogeyman, right? When I talk about man, person, myth, person, legend, you're creating a myth that these guys don't know what they're doing and there's no chance that they could ever possibly get it right. That's not the case, right?
Then they should be able to stop QE and let interest rates, a free and open interest rate environment occur, correct?
No, not unless you want a lot of starvation.
Yeah, so they can't stop manipulating the market, is what you're saying.
So, trying to keep people healthy, trying to make it so that we don't have a depression is a valid effort. And so you're not, the last time they went laissez-faire, and I'm not an economist, and I don't know that any of you guys are either, but as I remember, it was 1929 because Herbert Hoover said we can't interfere. And we learned a lot of lessons. And so I don't think just being laissez-faire is the way to go.
And so I don't want the world to suffer, but what happens if something steps in a decentralized way and starts supplying the pressure of a decentralized, uncontrollable system that it doesn't matter how much they want to manipulate it, it won't matter because what's supplanting it is taking over.
So you guys, look, like I wrote in my little tweet storm that right before this, you guys do a great job of selling the legend, selling the myth. What if? These guys are idiots. The central banks are idiots. The amount of debt is crushing. Fiat, you're losing every second of every day because of inflation. It's not that it's not based on truth. But let me give you an alternative. What if, using AI, artificial intelligence, we increase productivity 20%?
And you're just doing exactly the same. You're literally selling a new myth.
Yes, exactly. That's my point.
Well, this is an interesting point. Peter Thiel makes this point about the 21st century is going to be Bitcoin and free open markets versus AI top-down communism. And it's funny that's like that's Peter Thiel's point. That's Peter Thiel's point. That's not. I'm talking.
Well, bro, because of Moore's law and computing power, we're already doing that. The issue is the central bank debasement's going against that. So you're talking about something that's already been happening. Technological innovation's been happening for the last 50 years because of Moore's law. It's downstream of that. It's been happening, and we're doing it. It's central bank printing that's getting in the way of it. That's what's going on.
Okay, so let's talk economics. And again, I'm the first to admit I'm not an economist, so any economist can rip me to shreds. But if we devalue the currency X amount, but we increase productivity by more than that amount, and or grow the economy by more than that amount, can you grow the economy so that interest rates can be increased gradually and it works?
Right.
You're fighting an uphill battle. You don't have to do that. If you have a deflationary currency and the technology is naturally deflationary, they're running in the same direction. That's what's going on. Right now, they're fighting against each other. It's two opposing forces. It does not have to be this way.
Hey, Mark, you mentioned earlier that you proofed Ray Dalio's his releases. Ray's saying nothing of the sort. So how are you editing his emails, like you said earlier?
Editing was probably wrong. Where I give him my feedback and tell him what I think, and some he uses, some he doesn't. Right?
He totally disagrees with you.
What's that? Oh yeah, he disagrees with me on a lot of different things, but he's a great historian, and I respect everything that he says. But he hedges by owning some Bitcoin because he's the first to admit that he doesn't fully understand it. But I want to go back to what you said in relationship to AI, because you just kind of skipped over it. AI is not dependent on Moore's Law. AI is dependent on so many other things, and we're just touching the surface. If you look at the most valuable companies in the world, they're all great at AI. If you look at the most pressing need that we have as a country, it's not our debt burden. It's how do we compete globally, and the foundation for that competition is AI. Now, there's no correlation or causation between AI and Bitcoin at all. And if I had my druthers between AI, and there are some risks, increasing our productivity or just doing things to increase our productivity 5, 10, 15%, I'll take that over Bitcoin taking over our economy every single time. And you guys dismiss it as being no chance, just like I dismiss it.
No, it's not binary. That's not what I'm saying, or that's not what no one is saying up here. It's not binary. These forces can work in the same direction, or they can work in opposite directions. Right now, they are working in opposite directions because of central bank debasement. Yes, they are. Mark, you're wrong. They are working in opposite directions. Dude, how are they not working in opposite directions? Right? You just said, here's what you said. You said that if productivity can outpace printing, it does good. But it doesn't have to be that way. You're right. That's a true statement. But it doesn't have to be that way. They can work and go in the same direction, and that's what a sound monetary standard does. It's not an either or.
So put a timeline on when you think Bitcoin can be integrated to the point that it is a replacement for the central bank.
Well, can I ask you a quick question? And also, can I just make another
I'll
point?
answer his question within 10 years, Mark.
Okay, so within 10 years, I don't think that's marginally feasible, but okay, let's just say it is. What do you think is going to happen with AI? If we increase that productivity enough to overcome all the spending, do you think people will just say, well, we don't need Bitcoin yet?
Okay, so this is where I want to ask some questions, but before I do that, I just want to make a point. We're lucky enough to have Lynn Alden in the room. I really think she should be up here as a speaker because
I keep asking her and she won't come up.
Oh, Lynn, come on. Anyway, Mark.
I invited Lynn, Peter. I invited her.
Let's try and get her up. So, Mark, just on that point then.
Okay, can you just explain before you go, can you hear my voice from here?
Understand.
Yeah,
how
perfect.
does
okay,
AI
I'm just making sure
increase productivity
the audience will still be able to hear me talk from here.
And where does that money go, and how does that get distributed to the people who need it?
Well, it depends where you use it. If you use it in government,
okay, noted. Thank you, Nick. Great to see you, man. Thanks for hanging in. I'll check in with you tomorrow.
Military hasn't really spilled over, but over the next 10 years, that's our time frame. If you look at supply chain, is now starting to be integrated. Right. I have companies that are integrated into supply chain so that we can optimize supply chain. Look at what Apple does with it. Why do you think?
How well that's working right now?
Well, it's because it's being introduced now because of all the problems that are being created with the supply chain. That's how people are responding to the problem.
I think you're actually selling a bigger myth here because you say we're selling a myth, but we're not really.
I totally agree, Peter.
We're telling a story about something that is actually working, which is provable. We can prove it's actually working on a micro and a macro scale. You're selling a myth whereby you think we'll get a 20x increase in productivity because of AI. I think that's a much larger myth and it's quite disingenuous.
I use that as a hypothetical, right? I didn't say we will get a 20x, but I can tell you that if you talk to anybody who's literate in AI, they'll think they can do more.
I just think you're just throwing out the buzzword AI, and we're just totally avoiding the real conversation, which is central banks. Mark,
Go get your AI expert and bring up your AI expert. I'm not going to be an expert, but I fucking took all the time it took to be able to create neural networks. And
you know what, Mark? Some of us have also taken the TensorFlow course on Google and set up deep neural nets and played around with it. Like, I get it, right? I see it. It's a talking point, right? But at the end of the day, central banks cannot stop QE. That's the point. Lynn's up here. Lynn, tell us your opinion. Can central banks stop doing QE, or are they in a do loop that they have to keep taking rates low, or else everything implodes?
I think they can stop for a period of time. They can do another cycle probably, but they'll be kind of put back into the same track they've been on for the past decade.
So like 5-10 years, Lynn, can they stop doing what they're doing?
No, structurally, I don't think they're going to be able to do that for quite a while. They're going to have to believe at least real rates are going to be negative for, I think, a pretty persistent period of time.
okay, I'm not going to argue with that.
See, the point is, Mark, is that you've been very successful and you're a gazillionaire, and it doesn't really affect you the way it affects a lot of other people. And as somebody who's worked alongside many of the great people in this spaces, we understand how Bitcoin has actually given people optionality. People who don't really have much and the chance to actually save, and if they're patient, to increase the value of what they have. But whatever level of inflation, you're still going to be able to fly a private jet and buy players for your team, and it doesn't really affect you. You're not compelled to really care about this, and I think that's why you can have a bit of fun with Dogecoin. And if people get wrecked and lose all their money, it doesn't really affect you. But we're seeing work on the ground that's been done globally on a macro scale and also on a micro scale in different communities where Bitcoin is literally changing people's lives. And the thing is, it's a real shame because you have a platform, you have a big audience. If you actually did the work like the people in this room have done it, you would understand that what this could do for people. Yet you seem to be more interested in promoting what are essentially scams and complete shitcoins. It's quite sad, really, mate.
Yeah, let me ask you a question.
Wow.
Wait, who was I talking to? Is that Peter?
He better let him have it for that one.
MarkCuban.com and look at all the companies I'm investing in, and look at all the entrepreneurs that I work with and all the employees that I have that I work with. And then read a little bit about my history. And if you think this is all about, well, I'm rich, I can't relate, fuck you. Right? I've been sleeping on the floor. I've been so fucking broke, I had holes in my floor, right? I don't need to go back there to understand and remind myself. And I work with people that are trouble, you name it, right? I don't need to defend myself because I make a point to help people. That's why I'm on Shark Tank. Not because I'm trying to make more money, because I'm trying to encourage people to go out and start their own businesses. And you do what Maxis do, Peter, by deflecting. Well, you can't understand this. You can't do this or that. You're fucking like Elizabeth Warren.
I mean, that's just really disingenuous.
Hey, Mark, I'll give you this. I agree with what Peter said, but at the same time, I can agree with your comeback, right? And you know what? You being in this room right now, just battling out with us, says so much about you that I appreciate, right? So, like, kudos to you to step in here and battle with us on a Saturday night so that 10,000 people can listen in on this, right? But at the same time, I agree with what Peter's saying. I don't think you've done the hard work to understand this, and I think that you got a lot of stuff going on, right, man? Like, you got a lot of stuff. I got it. But I think you need to dig into this way more than what you've done. Just my personal opinion.
Okay, so you gave me typical Maxi dismissal, right?
Yes.
Coins.
Yes.
They're all shit coins. Everything. You're wrong. And that could be the undermining of Bitcoin as much as anything.
Yes.
But you know what? There are others that are good. And for a lot of applications, they're a whole lot better. And why everything that you've told me about the Bitcoin is reliant on net lightning. It's growing 4%. I can walk in anywhere in El Salvador. It's not alone. They're way ahead of you. Right? There's other networks, other applications, other platforms way ahead of you. And now they're also coming up with other applications. Put aside the collectibles market and people I know buying rocks and crypto punks and all that, trying to make money. That's great. More power to them, right? I like them. But at the same time, that's just a proof of concept. All the NFT smart contract stuff on all the platforms, that's just a proof of concept for all the other applications.
Mark, do you you called us you called a couple of us Maxis now.
Let me just.
Do you understand? I just want to say, because do you understand the difference between Bitcoin and all these other networks? Because it's like going to if I asked you about which car to buy and then you presented me a bicycle. No, they're fundamentally different because I know they all exist, but Bitcoin and crypto are very different. Do you understand the difference between Bitcoin and crypto? Because it's a real fundamental point. Because if you don't, this conversation is kind of pointless.
Here, and Peter, you're very, very clear about the decentralization and the nodes and what happened in China being exemplary and how the decentralization is protected. I understand it very well. What I also understand is how consumers buy. Also understand how businesses try to improve their productivity. And remember the story I told about the early days of the internet with starting streaming? When everybody would just laugh, why the fuck would I, do something with the internet? Why would I do anything with the internet when I could just turn on the TV? Everybody laughed. When I started the first all high definition television, everybody laughed. No one's going to buy these 25, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm used to going against the grain. And let me just tell you, people will follow the path of least resistance for the application they want to use.
I've got something good to put to you then, Mark. Do you think, just give me this one, Rob, and then I'll hand over because I know I'm dominating. Mark, do you think within the next 5 years that any other cryptocurrency will become legal tender in a country?
It's possible.
I do, yes.
On it. I bet you 100 grand right now that it doesn't happen within 5 years.
Oh, no, because I think if it works at all for El Salvador, then another small country will adopt it. Why wouldn't they?
So you do understand the fundamental difference. Comparing crypto to Bitcoin is comparing cars to bicycles. They're completely different things.
I don't understand.
Yeah, but guys, hold on 1 second. I think this whole entire conversation is kind of getting off track here a little bit. And, look, I've talked to Mark about this, not a lot, but enough where I think I kind of understand his thought process. And obviously, most people up here, I respect, I spend a lot of time with you guys. My big takeaway from this entire conversation is there's way more agreement than there is disagreement. And, Mark, you correct me if I'm missing something here, but what I take out of this is everyone on this stage agrees that Bitcoin is a store of value. Mark owns Bitcoin. Everyone else up here owns Bitcoin. Everyone agrees that it's a store of value. We also all agree that there is a potential path to Bitcoin becoming a global medium of exchange. I think the major difference is Mark assigns very, very small probability to that occurring. Most people up here assign a much higher probability to that. And then the last big point is everyone up here from the Bitcoin community is talking about Bitcoin as a monetary asset, right? A store of value, eventually a medium of exchange. Mark is bringing up the point that other pieces of technology that are competing for technology applications, et cetera. And I think most people in the Bitcoin community would say, yeah, they're very different, right? Ethereum or Solana or any of these other things are trying to solve a completely different problem. And Mark, if I remember correctly, at the beginning of the conversation, you said, look, Bitcoin has no competition from a store of value standpoint, but it's just these other platforms that are, quote unquote, further ahead in terms of serving various applications. Is that kind of a fair summary of where everyone is?
What you left out was that store of value, being good at store of value, acts as a boat anchor for everything else. Because people want to use it for that. It also opens up the door for other applications to do what Bitcoin expects to do. Because again, I'll use Axie Infinity. There's lots of things right and lots of things wrong about what they're doing in the Philippines as an example, right? But the people in Philippines aren't clamoring for Bitcoin. They're clamoring for SLP, right? And they're clamoring to get sponsors to play Axie Infinity because that's the organic currency that they can earn. And that currency, isn't necessarily a currency, but it can be distributed organically because they actually create it themselves. So the point being, you're going to be competing with a lot of other platforms for a lot of different applications. Now let's take it one step further. Let's just say, all the things that have happened with fintech get disintermediated by DeFi. All the things that we've seen with smart contracts, with NFTs, get applied to any number of other applications so that there are 2 or 3 competing other platforms that people are using and buying those tokens for because they need to use those applications.
So Mark, this is a really interesting point because I think that most people don't make the analogy, but I would go as far as to say what Axie Infinity is doing is analogous to, let's say, Uber early on paying drivers and riders and kind of subsidizing growth. At some point, if that subsidy goes away, is your belief that the audience or the user base will kind of move on to the next thing? Or is the thought process that these applications will attempt, similar to Web 2 technologies or platforms, to build enough of a network effect to stay and hold people without having to continue to have that subsidy?
Depends how big it gets. So the game for Axie Infinity is if they get a big enough community that people, by advertising, they sell intellectual property outside the community so that external money comes in, and then that external money is enough to support the gameplay and the subsidies can leave, they win. That's the bet.
Got it. And so I guess the big question is, if you think of the Bitcoin network, mining obviously is a subsidy to some degree to get people to come onto the network from a mining standpoint. Really what El Salvador is doing is, with the state-backed fund, they're creating a subsidy as well to get Bitcoin into people's hands. Your point, I think, is just, hey, how much do they actually need via either mining it or buying it in the market to seed into their economy in order to actually get the network effect, where then the government can kind of take their foot off the gas pedal and the people then now use Bitcoin in the economy without that subsidy?
Almost. Because the problem is, if you get the network effect, there isn't enough Bitcoin that can be mined within El Salvador. So the perfect scenario,
that's a really good point.
It's infinitely divisible, though.
Oh, God.
No, that's not the issue.
Yeah.
Of course it's infinitely divisible. All cryptocurrencies are at least 18 decimals divisible. So that's not the issue, right? The issue is if they grow the perfect event, that's what I was talking about. The perfect scenario is they can mine enough, the government can mine enough Bitcoin to pay all their bills organically in Bitcoin without ever having to purchase dollars or any other currency to use that to buy Bitcoin. That's the ultimate, because at that point in time, the whole economy is run and managed by Bitcoin because so much of the employment is government-based. Then the people that they mine the Bitcoin, they pay their employees in Bitcoin. Those people buy their coffee in Bitcoin. You don't need to be dealing with all the exchange fees. You don't need to be dealing with the currency translation fees. And you probably need to transfer from Bitcoin to some other USD or some other fiat. Or
so much as a circular economy at that point.
Yeah, it's self-fulfilling economy. But if they can't, and the demand is there.
Just the thing to keep in mind, though, is that since Bitcoin works with proof of work, you need to have energy, and not all countries have large energy silos that they're able to trade. So they need to be able to trade other goods and services for that Bitcoin. And just because they're not able to generate, if they're energy poor as a country, doesn't invalidate the thesis, since it's not a full circular economy if they're not mining on site. They can trade goods and services for energy that's being produced in Texas, right? You can have miners in Texas generate the Bitcoin, and you trade the goods and services to bring that Bitcoin into that economy.
That's fine, but it's going to be priced on dollars. But let's just say, for the sake of example, they can buy some percentage of their goods, and they can buy some percentage of they can barter for some percentage of their Bitcoin in El Salvador using goods and services, right? I forget what their number one resource is, but let's just say they only sell that for Bitcoin, and that increases the amount of Bitcoin that they have available to them organically. The more the demand for Bitcoin, if that demand for Bitcoin outstrips the organic availability of Bitcoin, then you have effectively a QE set of circumstances where they have to go out there and figure out a way to buy a currency, most likely USD, in order to buy more Bitcoin to satisfy the demand. And if they have to buy more Bitcoin to satisfy the demand, what happens to the price of Bitcoin? And if the people who are holding Bitcoin keep on holding it, given that there's a finite supply with no inflation, you could get to a point where everybody just arbs the shit out of El Salvador by saying nobody sell, right? Which you hear a lot in Bitcoin anyways, and the price the price inflation accelerates more dramatically than they can afford, and they have to go away from Bitcoin.
And then all citizens that are holding Bitcoin in their account or have chosen to denominate their savings in Bitcoin are upset.
No, but the rest of the world is happy, but all the people who couldn't afford, because you talk about me not being able to relate to people who can't afford to save anything. What do you think all those people in El Salvador who don't have the ability to save are thinking? And what they're saying?
They're probably thinking I need to get my hand on a smartphone or get my kids to get a smartphone so that I can start denominating my savings in Bitcoin.
Oh, God.
Yeah,
No,
this
they're
is
not
another
thinking
myth.
that.
If you had Michael Peterson here from El Zonte, that's one of the things I thought when I went down to El Salvador. I thought people wouldn't be able to save because they don't have any money. And he actually explained, no, it's actually all relative. Whereas we might be sitting there thinking, I'm not going to buy that TV because I want to buy Bitcoin and save. People in El Salvador, down in Zonte, what they're doing, they might not be buying a can of Coke or a beer and they're saving. But people in El Zonte who are, it's a third world country. Some of the poorest people are starting to save. There is that one guy, I can't remember his name, he was just gradually saving bits and bits of Bitcoin over time. And he eventually got his teeth done and he's buying a cow. And it sounds funny, but it's the truth. Is that the reason they don't save is they had no incentive to save because their money wasn't appreciated in value and they didn't have the technology to save because they didn't have bank accounts. So even the poorest people now in El Salvador are starting to save. So sorry, that's just another myth.
Okay, first of all, anecdotal stories are amazing.
No, it's true. People are now saving there. You speak to Michael Peterson.
I believe you. I 100% believe you, but you have to look at it on a macro basis. And people outside El Salvador will benefit more. So let me change it as a question. Are there going to be more Bitcoin holders outside of El Salvador or inside of El Salvador?
Good question.
Well, of course outside of El Salvador because there's 6 million people there and there's 8 billion on the planet.
They're the ones that are going to be playing the ARB game saying, okay, now we're looking at the payments that the El Salvador government has to make. We see that they're bartering from Texas, right, to get Bitcoin to pay some of it, but they're going to have to buy, because I get this all the time, and you guys hear it all the time. So-and-so is going to buy X hundreds of millions of dollars of Bitcoin for their treasury, so let's buy now because the price is going to go up. So-and-so, there's going to be an ETF, so let's buy now because tomorrow this ETF goes gold, hopefully, and more people are going to buy. When you all of a sudden find out El Salvador has $100 million in bills they have to buy Bitcoin for, what do you think is going to happen and who's going to benefit?
So, Mark, what is your thought process? A couple of years ago, I think it was Pierre Rochard wrote a piece talking about like a speculative attack on Bitcoin. You could look at something maybe like a Michael Saylor has done, where he's basically borrowing money at incredibly low interest rates that depreciates, rather rapidly, converts it into Bitcoin. So he's trading, kind of bad money for good money, if you were to ask him about it. And a nation state obviously has the ability to print money. El Salvador doesn't because they're dollarized. But if there was another nation state that got in this situation and they just said, rather than go to the market and buy Bitcoin with the dollars on our balance sheet, we're literally just going to print, 500 billion, $1 trillion of our bad money and convert it into Bitcoin in one big purchase. Is that a viable path for a nation state, or is that going to be kind of front run as well?
I think it's a viable path, and I think they do it differently. They go and buy as much hash rates as they possibly can and threaten what they couldn't buy. So China made a mistake by kicking them out. They should have kept them in and kept control of them like they did with all the other technology.
Agreed.
So if China gets enough hash rate so they can get to 51% and say, live or die, there goes your family, what happens to Bitcoin if they get to 51%?
Yeah, well, now they're down, sub 5% on a global basis. The U.S. is the leader with 35% of hash rate as of right now. I guess, and I just want to bring it full circle because this all started with the thread Avik wrote in the National Affairs article, just saying, hey, America should embrace Bitcoin. What's your take on what should America do? Is it just allow the free market and kind of private participants to, play it out? Should the U.S. actually do something here?
With Bitcoin, they don't have to do anything. They just let it be. It's just a store of value like gold. And look, one of the great lies of gold is that it's physical ownership. Nobody, other than people who own coins, nobody owns physical gold.
That's right.
Right?
Great
it's
point.
just a digital transaction on a ledger somewhere. And then it trades in the futures market and people settle. No one physically owns it. It's actually not, from that perspective, it's not all that different. Maybe not Bitcoin 100% analogy because of the inflation rate difference, but the fact that there is no inflation in Bitcoin. But the reality is, there isn't there isn't gold being delivered very often, except for industrial and jewelry applications.
That's because it's expensive to do physical settlement, unlike Bitcoin.
Well, yeah, it's expensive, but there's no reason to do it. It may be expensive, but so what? No one's going to do it.
Right. Exactly.
If people thought there was going to be a run on gold, they would want to own physical gold.
Doubt it. Doubt
well,
it.
no, I agree with you, and that's why I don't own it. But
I mean, but people runs on. I mean, you know, the myth, the person, the legend. It's all around gold, just like it is, just like a lot of the stuff you guys are talking about now on Bitcoin.
Well, Mark, if I may, you mentioned Solana earlier, right? Like, as like these other currencies and these other platforms, like that's a different market structure where you have a large amount of VCs coming in and backing something at an early seed round, being able to get tokens before they're ever publicly available at 4 cents, and then it gets listed on an exchange, and then exchanges have massive abilities, like basically from a market dynamic to basically effectively dump on retail, right? It's a bit of a different market structure in that sense. And additionally, like Solana, like had to have a bunch of node runners meet on Discord because the chain broke. And all of the complexity we're talking about for these elaborate features that differentiate away from Bitcoin are Achilles' heels and introduce centralization again, which if the whole innovation here is that we've solved the Byzantine general problem, we've actually brought decentralization here. Like the idea that you have to have this elite class of people who have privileged access to the network who actually truly set rules, it doesn't matter what other bells and whistles you have on top of it. All of the complexity is a liability when it comes to actually doing the computation and the actual innovation. And that actually is a detractor away from everything.
Okay, so let me respond to that. So first, like I said in my tweet storm, that there are a lot of blockchains, L1s and L2s, and a lot of them are going to go belly up. It is a death war right now. But you're wrong when you say that Bitcoin doesn't have those complexities, because there are assets like wrap Bitcoin. And those assets are being, held simultaneously and traded and fall right within those same ecosystems.
But they have custodians. They're centralized. That's the exact trade-off. That you lose the decentralization, and with the trade-off of becoming centralized and a custodian holding that WBTC on your behalf, you can do all the crazy things you want, but you just reinvented modern banking all over again. There's a custodian.
Yeah, no question about it, right? I agree with you there. But again, look, Solana is a bad example because for a lot of reasons. We don't need to litigate Solana, right? But there are good ones, right? There are ones that are working well. And that, again, I'll keep on repeating this. Right now, what's happening, I'll go from the consumer perspective. And a friend of mine, a good friend of mine that I respect a lot, and I used to go back and forth in this all the time. You have to look at it from the consumer perspective. Consumers are going to find applications that they really like and that are easy to use, right? And where those applications are hosted, they're going to be the winners if they're able to sustain themselves. And it doesn't matter what we think about Bitcoin. It doesn't matter about the decentralization. I don't want to get everybody all hyped, so I just made a bunch of people's blood boil by saying it doesn't matter about the decentralization.
It sure did.
Yeah. Take a step away from that, right? So what I'm saying is, the consumers don't pay attention to the intricacies. I was listening to something and they were talking about don't sell the recipe, sell the brownie, right? The consumers buy the brownies. And they focus on the brownies that work for them. They don't think about the recipe at all. And so if enough people are buying different brownies and love the brownies, and those brownies may not be quite as decentralized as you would like, they're going to ignore that fact and keep on buying those brownies. Stupid analogy. Lots of people will tweet that that's a dumb analogy, but it's the best I can think of.
But Mark, I think that there's a hint of truth here, right? In the sense that the Bitcoin community points at Ethereum, let's say, and says, hey, Ethereum's not as decentralized. There's a bunch of incentives that are going to make it more centralized over time. We saw over the last 12, 18 months, Binance Smart Chain pops up, much more centralized than Ethereum, according to the Ethereum community, but faster throughput, cheaper fees. Some developers, not all, but some developers moved over. You could argue that they didn't care about decentralization because they just wanted faster throughput, cheaper fees. You then see Solana, yada, right? So there's a whole bunch of these examples where this happens. I think the place where the Bitcoin community kind of draws the line in the sand is there are very specific applications where decentralization really matters, and Bitcoin is the most decentralized and the one most likely to get more decentralized over time. I think what you're saying is actually something different, which is the end user and also the developers in all of the other use cases where decentralization is not the most important thing, like with Bitcoin, everyone just wants the best user experience, the cheapest fees, the highest throughput, etc. Right?
They just want the application that they want. Right? That's it.
Yeah, they want it to work. They want it to work essentially.
Yeah, and they're willing to accept a certain level of risk that Bitcoiners may not be willing to accept because it might get a lower price. Okay. Again, blood pressure goes up, lower price. Okay, I heard you already. But there'll be an application that's sold in a manner that they want to consume it, and that gets them to commit to what they're doing. And so if there's a race going on. The whole foundation of the non-store value applications that everybody's mentioned is built on Lightning, correct? Lightning is the base for everything. So it's Lightning.
Discrete log contracts, which are doing contracts for difference on the Bitcoin base chain right now, being able to actually have the distributed futures markets with being able to create your own oracles on base chain, right? And as opposed to having it, so it's a little bit nuanced in that, but I'll let you keep on going.
So more than one, right? So there's more than one application platform, right? But you're competing between those couple, Lightning and the others, with thousands. And there's so much money going into those thousands that it's being subsidized, right?
Just because the money's flowing into it doesn't mean that the capital is being allocated in a meaningful and smart way. So,
you're right.
Like, when I look at the amount of liquidity that's being pumped into this system and the malinvestment that's there and the zombie companies that exist on the planet right now, it's almost making your eyes bleed, right?
But the flip side of that is, you said it doesn't mean that they're going to be successful. You're right. But it also doesn't mean they're not going to be.
No, and I agree with that. There might be. But my concern, Mark, is the order of events that are going to play out here, right? My opinion, which I suspect is very different than your opinion, is that the store of value is going to drive a wedge into the fixed income market and expose this quantitative easing that can't be turned off, that's now even being transmuted into UBI plus quantitative easing. And it's going to drive a wedge into that, and it's going to get to this point where people are saying, you know what? I'm not going to sign up for this bond contract that guarantees the loss of my nominal principal because it yields a negative rate, right? I think that we're at a breaking point with how far everything's been stretched in the fixed income space. And when you look at the size of that market, this is a $300 trillion market cap for fixed income around the world. 18 to 20 trillion of that being negative yielding debt already today, right? When we look at the market size of Bitcoin, it's a pittance. So now if you're sitting on a bond desk, right, and you got this massive amount of buying power, that has to go somewhere, and it has to go somewhere that you actually trust, right? Are you going to go to some protocol that's sort of somewhat decentralized, or are you going to go to something that hasn't changed a lick in a decade that has a 21 million fix, right? So the order of events is, I think, the part that you and I have a major disagreement on things progressing. On the other side of all this, right, well, maybe some of this other stuff does pop out of it. Maybe there is a reason to have these decentralized contracts that now I don't go to Robinhood anymore where I'm already getting free trades and I go somewhere else, right? Maybe there's a desire for that and there's a 10x advantage to move in that direction. But 10x advantage I see today is the fixed income market is beyond repair.
Okay, so Preston, let me respond to that. What percentage of Yin's guys understand what nominal interest rates are?
Does it matter?
Yes.
Why?
For the same reason that people just keep on putting money into their savings accounts.
Right there.
Yeah, but Mark, look what's happening right now. We got a 10-year treasury at 1.5%, and we got 6 months of CPI. We got 6 months of CPI prints at 5.5%, right? So now people are being incentivized to not even pay down their house. They're incentivized to take out a 100-year loan because they'll make a 300 basis point return by just having the loan itself.
And Preston,
I think Mark's point is that we're operating in that world, assuming that there's financial education. Right? You remember 45% of Americans don't even own an investment.
I don't think this thing called Bitcoin cares whether anybody understands it or not.
Yeah, I think Preston. So let me reframe. One of the ways to think about this is who own, the market volume is driven by larger players, and I think it was Preston maybe who was making this point earlier. If you think about the risk reward ratio and the classic capital markets line, all these asset allocators are being forced out of cash and bonds to take on more risk in equities, and they've all these endowment funds and things have gone into private equity and venture capital, not because that's a good place. It's because they need to do things like make that trade-off between illiquidity and in order to generate those returns. There's all kinds of analysis that comes out week after week by these research people that says, hey, you know what? In the 1980s, you could make 7.5%, which is the return amount that all these endowments have just by investing in various debt instruments. And today, you need a mix of all kinds of different equities and things like that. So institutional investors, which control the vast majority of capital, are having these conversations. High net worth individuals, which control a ton of capital, are having these conversations. There's some crazy ratio of 10% of Americans own 80% of the stocks. So those really well-educated people who can move the market with investment decisions are definitely talking about things that Preston's talking about with the inflation. Even the people who aren't particularly educated on nominal interest rates and things like that, groceries are elevated 25% plus. The official government economist was on TV saying there's no inflation as long as you exclude the price of pork, beef, and chicken, which is what people care about. If you go to Home Depot, I had a project, all the shelves, they have a list of things that are missing from that shelf this week. So I think that some of these inflation concerns, they may sound conspiracy theory or, Bitcoin maxi, but I think people are seeing it day to day now.
Here's what you're missing. Bitcoin's not the only alternative to solve those problems. And so all that money is not only looking at Bitcoin, but they're going through the same process that I do, right? Why do I like Ethereum and some of the L2s more than I like Bitcoin? Because the applications, and I had, again, with the same smart friend that I love talking about this stuff with, we had the same conversation, and he kind of came around and agreed with me. And what we discussed was, when you have a lot of applications that require a certain token in order to use those applications, that drives demand for the token. That's Ethereum. These, concepts. This application, decentralized financial applications, decentralized insurance claim approval. There's so much.
Yeah, Mark. I think the point that you're making is fair. There are decentralized types of financial infrastructure that could be built. But part of the whole take that I just didn't hear anyone bring it up, so I'm going to bring it up.
Wait.
The idea. Oh, sorry, man.
Let me finish my point. What happens is when consumers and businesses are using these smart contract-driven applications on other networks, Ethereum, Polygon, Optimistic, whatever it may be, they have to buy the tokens in order to use those applications. Consumers will have to do the same thing in order to use those applications. And that is going to create intrinsic demand for those tokens.
Right there.
The people who are making these decisions on trying to find alternatives to treasuries and trying to get more effective yield are going to see those trends. If you go to markcuban.com and start to look at my investments, you'll see that I'm investing where there are applications, right? Because I think that those applications are going to drive a whole lot more utilization than what you're hoping Lightning does. And because of that, that's what creates the competition and risk for Bitcoin beyond store of value. Now, on the flip side,
excellent point.
Because all these other networks are doing these other applications and are not trying to be pure store of values, even though they can be speculative. And a lot of these trading desks will buy them because they see the tokens as products, and as long as there's more demand than supply, the price will go up. There'll be some competition for Bitcoin there. But because Bitcoin is very limited in what Lightning Network can do and will be for at least the next couple years, that's going to work in Bitcoin's favor in terms of pricing.
Mark, you keep saying Bitcoin's store of value. So how are you thinking about the remittance problem that has already been solved in El Salvador, where it's just swapping from fiat to Bitcoin rails back into whatever fiat they're wanting to use down in El Salvador? The person doesn't even know that they're using Bitcoin.
That's just one application that El Salvador chose to use. Well, great. But it's not like other applications, other platforms The networks can't do the exact same thing.
In an instant, they can't do that one.
So Mark, the thing that I think that you're I just want to hear your take on this, I guess, is like, look, if we look at a company, one of the things we think about is what's the competitive moat, and then how sustainable is that moat. And so when you think about, for Bitcoin, it's kind of what is the monetary premium. So just like, hey, if you're looking at real estate in New York City, the price trades far above what the cap rate would be for like a small town in Ohio. So why can Manhattan real estate collect all this monetary premium that the small town in Ohio can't? Part of it is network effects. Part of it is, people know the supply is constrained. It's like kind of an island. And there's all these things that I think there's a similar analogy to be made with Bitcoin, where with Bitcoin, it's not going to change. With something like Ethereum, even the older Ethereum developers have just quit, or they've, changed tack all of a sudden. They've changed multiple times. They failed to deliver as a management team. There's all these things where they're failing, and then Bitcoin already works now as it is. So it's kind of like, this thing already works, so it makes sense.
Selling yourself. Gee, you're selling yourself, right? You're selling yourself. Consumers don't care. People in New York just want some place to live. And if they can get a place where the value goes up and it's a store value, great. So while you're arguing about the recipe and how much butter should go into the brownie recipe, people are just tasting the brownies to see which ones they like best.
Yeah, and so you brought up the video games, and so like that just crystallized it for me. Okay, maybe I am selling myself. I'm definitely deep down the rabbit hole, so totally fair. But think about the total addressable market difference. That's the point that I was trying to make. Something like a Bitcoin is like global money. It can take the monetary premium from Manhattan real estate. Something like Axie Infinity, it's like EVE Online money. Or what is the market cap of the world?
You sound like Charles Harsh. You sound like the Cardano guys, right? Well, we're in Africa doing school stuff for children in Nigeria.
Boom.
Right? There's no platform that doesn't have a story. Polygon talks about what they're doing in India, right, and in the United States. There's no platform that doesn't have an analogous story that you just brought up. Now, the difference is the finite, and there's even others that
serious. I'm saying that serious asset allocators are going to look at Bitcoin for fundamental reasons. I'm not talking about helping orphans. So I'm not trying to.
No, I agree. Look, as a store of value, and serious asset allocators are looking at it as a store of value. They don't give a shit about how much it's being used in El Salvador.
That's right.
Mark, we're kind of getting all over the place here, but I'd really like to ask you, you seem to be someone that's very heavy on Ethereum, and you seem to feel very, very confident about its future. Doesn't it worry you at all that going from proof of work to proof of stake, have you taken a deep analysis of why it's become so difficult for the Ethereum Foundation to find an exit plan here? Because they pushed the difficulty bomb past multiple times now, and they haven't been able to find a solution to move from proof of work to proof of stake. I mean, as an investor, aren't you worried that this is kind of like showing that they're unable to get it done and unable to make the transition?
Not really, because they implemented 1559, and there's L2s ready to pick up the slack.
And now the fees are exploding.
But Mark, ultimately, they're trying to go.
Bitcoin's going to Gambia.
But they've been unable to do that so far because they know that.
Yeah, but we can make. Let's go back to 2017. Let's go back to 2017 and all the arguments. Bitcoin went, how many times did it fork?
This is talking about a fundamental base layer change. You're talking about changing, making a very large change up to the protocol, which will actually destroy the original chain. So when they drop
that was the same argument on blockchain.
No, we're just talking about Ethereum right now. We're just talking about Ethereum.
I get it, but the point is, Bitcoin overcame it. And
Bitcoin has never gone through this kind of a change before, though. This is a pretty dramatic change. You're talking about rebuilding the plane.
We're talking about doing a beacon chain with 64 other blockchains that are going to, port itself into it. Like, this is like having an open heart surgery on the protocol.
And you know what? If they have to roll back and they can't, great. But at the same time, again, it's the brownie versus the recipe. I'm guessing that Vitalik will figure it out. That's a bet of mine.
That's a fun analogy. I mean, and that's interesting to say that Vitalik will figure it out, but they haven't been able to figure it out. Like, listen, a lot of chains have started on proof of stake, and that's fine. That works for them. But moving from proof of work just real quick, I just want to finish. Moving from proof of work to proof of stake has proven to be extremely difficult. Part of the reason is because what they're going to have to do is they're going to have to fire the miners. In the recent past, they've treated the miners very poorly. They've gone from 5 ETH to 4 ETH to 3 ETH. So they've been cutting the pay of their security guards for a long time. Now they've done EIP 1559. They're burning the fees. As they get closer and closer to dropping the difficulty bomb, they're essentially saying to the miners, hey, we're about to fire you. We're about to let you go, just so you know in advance. Mark, I know you've had a lot of employees. Have you ever let any of your employees know that you're going to fire them 6 months in advance and continue to let them work the job?
Yeah, but isn't that kind of like having?
No, it's not like having at all. It's not like having at all.
You're going to have to buy ASICs, and you're going to have to buy new ASICs, and
it's not like having at all. They're moving to validators, so they're completely.
No. Okay, so that's It's not a pure analogy, and it's not purely. I know the difference between mining and proof of work and proof of stake, but
what's the difference?
Well, hold on, Mark. The halving is a preset. We know that's coming.
Yeah, you know it's coming.
But what's the difference? No, hold on. But hold on. What's the difference between proof of work and proof of stake?
One has validators and one has miners, right? And so that's the difference. And you can put up money and become a validator, et cetera, et cetera. But the bigger point is that it's not just about mining, right? And it's not just about halving is coming. There's an ASIC war. And there's a war to keep on pushing the envelope in terms of the instruction set that is required to solve the problem. And that's not cheap.
But this is really getting away from ultimately the transitionary period. To get from proof of work to proof of stake, they'll have to difficulty bomb the entire proof of chain network.
I'm not arguing that it's a risk. I agree with you that it's a risk. You asked me if I understand that it's a risk. I agree with you that it's a risk. I think, so if they can't solve that, then maybe I'm 100% wrong. Okay, I've been wrong before. But if they can solve it, I'm 100% right.
That's right. There we are.
Well, I hope they, have an opportunity to solve it, because a lot of people's money is going to be seriously at stake if they're unable to solve the transition.
But we're talking about the same type of risk proposition with Lightning.
No.
Lightning has been around for how long?
Totally wrong, Mark.
How long has Lightning been around?
Since 2017.
Been in production.
And so how long has it taken for really to be put into production?
It's been in production for 4 years.
Right, but okay, so to really be put to use, because it hasn't been getting 4% week-to-week growth.
I can send you whatever you want right now.
Proof of stake isn't even a reality yet. I mean, you're talking about comparing something like Lightning Network, which has been in use and has been used by nation states at this
that's
point.
using it as legal tender on the Lightning Network today.
Right, today, 4 years later. But at the same time, right, let's say Ethereum just screws the pooch. Okay, as I said earlier, not all of these networks are going to survive.
You catch that 4 years later,
to take its place. I'll have lost my investment. Shit happens.
Yeah, hey guys, that was one of the things I was going to ask.
Guys, real quick, I got to leave, but Mark, I just want to say thank you for coming up here. I know that.
Yeah, I got to go too, guys. This has been
one verse many. I'll see you guys later.
Hey, Mark, I appreciate you coming up
Mark.
and battling.
Yeah, that was fun. Hey, how many people are on this thing?
15,000.
Let's do it again.
So me versus 15,000, that's always fun.
Getting a lot of messages, Mark, that you held your own. Honestly, pretty impressed by your ability to come in here and speak amongst the Vipers. Preston, thank you so much for trying to do this in this room together.
It was fun.
Absolutely,
You
Mark.
guys, hey Preston, you guys got to do this again sometime down the south side.
Thanks for coming on, Mark. My only gripe is stop talking about Dogecoin.
It's a great introduction to cryptocurrency. I'll keep on talking about it.
Tell people to go start a full node.
Yeah, right.
Mark.
Yeah, because that's easy.
Mark, thank you for the back and forth. Enjoy
It is.
Thank
It
you.
is. My 8-year-old son put mine together.
All right. Well, my 11-year-old did Ethereum, so we're good. All right, guys, take care.
Hey, see ya.
Take care. Bye.
See you, Mark. Appreciate it, man. Wow, Preston, that was cool.
I was not expecting that, Preston. That was incredible.
Yeah, it's good that he came on. I mean, I disagree with him so much. Most of it just comes down to the timing. Like, here's the thing. Like, he's saying, hey, this thing could go in many different directions. I want to own, a little bit of all this. And I mean, the guy's a billionaire and he wants to spread out his position size, right? That's how he's thinking about it. I think that his timing's off, right? Like, I really think that what we're seeing is a total catastrophe in fixed income due to the actions, decades and decades of actions with respect to the central banks, right? And so when you look at like what caused all of this quote unquote crypto to be stood up and to come to light, it was something that was searching a problem. Well, what was the problem? What was the central bankers manipulating fixed income rates for decades, right? So that's why it came to be. So it comes into existence to solve that specific problem, to provide a 10x gain, 100x, 1000x gain to society, right? And then all these other things start like growing on the side of it, right? These other things can turn into something. We have no idea, right? But when I look at like the timeline of like how this is going to play out with, call it $18 trillion worth of negative yielding bonds on the market, like they're pushing this thing straight off the cliff's edge. And all of that buying power, the $300 trillion in fixed income, is going to go somewhere. And let me tell you, it's going to go somewhere that people trust and that aren't concerned that whether they're going to be able to port 24 blockchains into a beacon chain that's moving to a new type of clearing mechanism and like all this other stuff. Like, it's not going there. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I just don't see that happening. Now, would some portion of it go there? Maybe. I don't know. But like,
maybe.
I'm not one that's going to try to...
Can't be serious.
How does Greg Foss say it? You're too smart by a half or whatever. But like...
Too smart by a half. It's a rounding error.
Too smart by a half.
Preston,
keep it simple. Keep it simple. Like, this is... You don't have to overthink this, right? This is all about decentralization and security, right? Like, it's the security of the buying power that it can't be lost. And so the faster that people figure that out...
He hasn't done the work. That's the problem. He hasn't done the work.
And he's just outsourcing. He's outsourcing that through position size of just spreading it out over everything.
They said Mark Cuban hasn't done the work, guys.
Mark
Cuban hasn't done the work. Okay.
Yeah,
sure,
I think
buddy.
that's the thing, Preston. It's like he's thinking of it as an investor and where can I allocate capital? Where can I get returns? Whereas
just like all these hedge funders.
Yeah, whereas a lot of people maybe in this room would think about, like, this is my fucking money. Like, what do I do to protect myself? So I don't think he's done the work.
But as soon as you start digging in on the technical of, like, how are they going to move from proof of work to proof of stake? Like, it just collapses, right? Like, he can't get into that conversation because he hasn't done the work.
Do you guys think he genuinely believes that people are not buying like large amounts of Dogecoin, or is he just kind of protecting himself by thinking people are only throwing $20 at it?
I think he's doing bullshit.
I have no idea. I just, if I was going to defend him, he likes to have fun, right? Like, that's the persona that he has on TV, and whether that's what he's like in real life or not, I have no idea. But like, he likes to have fun. He kept saying it's fun. People are just having fun with it. But I don't think that he realizes that there are a lot of people that are stuffing like significant amounts of their proportional wealth into that mess, right? And it's a disaster waiting to happen. I mean, look at the price action compared to Bitcoin over the last 4 or 5 months, right? Like, you've lost a significant portion of your buying power if that's where you were at because you listened to Mark Cuban on Ellen. So like, that's my issue, and that's why I poked him there at the end before we left. It's like, dude, stop talking about it. Like, do some homework here. You need to be trying to help the 8 million people or however many follow him.
Yeah, but really, it's homework on sound money that he needs to work on, right? Like, the fundamental question whether an inflationary currency is something that he thinks can be used as a medium of exchange, or if a deflationary sound store of value can be used as a medium of exchange as well. Like, if you don't start there, then the second order effects of all this technology don't even make any difference.
Yeah, and so the thing that Preston is talking about for folks in the audience about, like, hey, what's happening with the fixed income world, I think the reason that's important is basically, I tried to make this point, but like, in the past, you could have money in a savings account and you would be good. It would like help towards your retirement. Now the returns on your savings account is like 0.5%. So you're losing money because they're printing so much money. They're printing more than that 0.5%. So what's happening for these like really large funds is they're moving into riskier and riskier stuff just so they can meet those return hurdles of, like, call it 8%, 7%, so that they can pay out their retirees. The thing is, even for the smaller folks, like, they're seeing the same thing. When you see people buying lottery tickets what you're seeing is people who aren't doing math, they're not being rational, they're just looking for some crazy risk return ratio where maybe they can think about actually meeting their retirement needs. And so it's, that's when you see college students buying meme stocks and stuff. It's the same kind of concept for the bigger investors and for the smaller investors. And that's not a sustainable way to run a society. Whereas I think something like Bitcoin kind of is.
It's way more nuanced than that, guys. It's way more nuanced than that. Don't worry, I'm going to keep this going for a few more minutes, listening to these guys, and then I'll give some commentary on it, and we can talk about what transpired.
If they want to keep chatting, but I'm going to head out.
I'd be happy to boost up another room if Rob wants to join me as well. Happy to keep things rolling.
So, Preston, thank you. For everyone in the audience, I kept basically a no invite policy, Preston, because this was kind of your fight in your room. I wasn't trying to crowd the stage, nothing personal. But I think, Preston, this was a big opportunity for you, and I didn't want to take over too much of the stage.
I wasn't even looking at the stuff. I was sitting here rolling my eyes for most of this.
Well, opportunity. Thank you, Preston, for hosting the space. The way Twitter Spaces work, though, is that when you leave, the room's tied to you, so it's going to shut down the room.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm closing it out. Thanks everyone for joining, and it was fun, I guess.
Real quick, Preston, if those of you that wanted to know, I did record that entire thing, so I'll be posting it up soon. There's a link up top.
I did too, motherfucker.
But yeah, happy to start another room if everyone wants to join me to continue the discussion. There's a ton of people who were DMing me, chatting, who are kind of wanting to come up on stage. So appreciate you, Preston, putting this on, though.
Yeah, thanks. All right. See you guys.
Okay. There we have it. Space is closed. Pretty interesting. Pretty epic, actually. Pretty epic. I'm glad we were able to broadcast. I was able to broadcast as much of that as transpired. I think I got most of the space. I think I may have missed the first 10 minutes of that space. But this will be up here for anyone to listen to, review, go back in. I will put timestamps in where this, essentially what was a debate between Mark Cuban and various Bitcoin Maxis, where it starts and where it ends. So there is a tremendous learning experience for all of us here. And it is a point that I've been making more and more recently on my recent broadcasts. And this really encapsulates a lot of what I've been talking about in this regard. And it's this. Listen to how unreasonable and how arrogant and how closed-minded and how judgmental some of these guys, not all of them, but some of these guys, I'd say probably most of them that I heard in there in terms of the Bitcoin Maxis, how they sounded, right? They very much could be described as all of the things I just aforementioned. Okay? Now, we have that too in the Dogecoin community. And not as many, but they're there. They're there. We never want to become that which we despise. We never want to come that which we despise. We never want to come off that way. Do you think that all the attitude and the arrogance and the dismissiveness with 15,000 people listening tonight, do you think that made a lot of brand new Bitcoin investors tonight? Do you think these guys made a lot of inroads with encouraging a lot of brand new Bitcoiners to rush into the space tonight, hearing what transpired in there? I would say no. So if we allow our own community to get too permeated with zealotry and maxi kind of mindsets and deliveries, that is how we will come off to potentially new investors. Dogecoin wasn't founded that way at all. It was founded with the ethos of do only good every day. It was founded as a happy accident. It's both a joke and something with great, fantastic utility that's grown even more relevant going forward. So which side are you gonna, if you're just entering into the space, are you more likely to join the side that's having fun, that's more welcoming, that is open to a multi-pronged solution to the decentralized finance issues that we are being challenged with? Or are you going to go to the side that says this coin, Bitcoin, is the only way and all their digital currencies are pretty much crap and irrelevant, and this is the only way forward? Rock Lobster coming in with a $20 super chat. Thank you so much. Biggest super chat of the night. Thank you for keeping the lights on. Thank you for thank you, Rock Lobster. That was great. Thanks for airing it with the killer recap boss. Thank you, Rock Lobster. Appreciate it. Sliding Edge coming in $2. Don't think any Bitcoin users were gained from this. I mean, that's my impression. That's my impression. You know, here's the thing. RW says they were being completely disrespectful to Mark Cuban. They just don't want to hear anything other than Bitcoin. Frustrating to listen to. Yeah, that's a good assessment. That's a good assessment. So, guys, I'm not anti-Bitcoin. In fact, this last week I was speaking very kindly of Bitcoin. In fact, I think I've been speaking more and more kindly of Bitcoin, even more and more recently. So far as going to tell you guys not to completely scratch Bitcoin off the table. There's still, I believe, a lot of money to be made, even at the entry points now Bitcoin. Now they won't be as great, but there's still money to be made there. In fact, I've been making videos that say my strongest positions are Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Dogecoin. Not in that order. Dogecoin's my strongest positioning, but Dogecoin, Ethereum, and Bitcoin in that order for me. But whatever floats your boat is what floats your boat. But I consider those to be the top three. Now, these guys are so close-minded and arrogant that they can't even be have reasonable, civilized. They can't even get on well with people who are Bitcoin investors and like Bitcoin, but just have a disagreement with the utilitarian role of Bitcoin. That's still not good enough for them, because when you start going down rabbit holes like this, your perspective on it gets more and more cultish, wherein if in the more and more cultish of a rabbit hole you find yourself going down, there's no disagreements allowed. There's no disagreements allowed even on a micro level, right? And so that is the Maxi mentality. And that is a very dangerous mentality. And it's not one that can just be applied to cryptocurrency, but it can be applied to religious groups and fanatical political and religious factions as well. There's direct parallels between all of these. Now, I'm obviously a very Doge-centric content creator. That's no stranger to anybody. That's predominantly what I'm known for, right? And I speak very positively about Dogecoin night after night. I talk a lot about it. But I also talk a lot about it in terms of why I'm optimistic in pragmatic terms. But I don't hate Bitcoin. I like Bitcoin. I like Ethereum. I like XRP. I like other currencies. I like other digital currencies. I like other projects. Going forward here, Bitcoin cannot aptly fulfill all of the roles. That's just insane. Now, I have a lot of respect for Bitcoin. Unfortunately, those Maxis do not have respect back for us, as you heard tonight. And I want each of you to listen and just digest everything that we heard tonight in that space, because that is everyone that's involved in, and I think that's most of the viewers here, that's involved in Dogecoin in some capacity, whether you're a casual investor or you're deeply invested, whatever, or you're just even an enthusiast. Maybe you're here and you're you own Bitcoin and you just saw the title and you clicked on whatever. Maybe you're not even into cryptocurrency. I don't care. Everyone's welcome here. But my point is, what we heard tonight is a really good learning lesson, and it's a really good warning flag for us involved with the Dogecoin community to never be like that. When you start being too much of a closed-minded maxi for Dogecoin, that's how you sound other people. That's how you sound other people, and that's why it's a balance. It's okay to be super enthusiastic about Dogecoin. I love it. I love the enthusiasm. Personally, I call it a term some of you may become familiar with. I call it Dogementum, right? Or whatever. But there's a balance where you want to be that without being an a-hole. You know, I often say here, I don't care if you don't own any Dogecoin or it's 100% of your portfolio. You're welcome here. I don't even care if you're into crypto or not. You're welcome here. I don't care. And that is the attitude, in my opinion, that is most, not only, in my opinion, just the ethically the right way to be and treat people, but furthermore, I think that speaks in much greater volumes, and that encourages a lot more, has a much higher probability of encouraging a lot more investors and a lot more interest in growing the community, right? So that's my take on that. I think it's a very good learning moment for all of us. And as far as to Mark Cuban's point about he's not deeply invested in Doge, I think on record, as far as interview record, now he might secretly own a lot more, but I think he only owns a couple thousand worth of Doge. I think that he's still, as a businessman, he's a brilliant mind in terms of rollout and business strategy. And I think he's more likely even a lot more bullish on Dogecoin than he lets on. But I think that the way he framed, he's still in that rollout phase where he's saying, oh, it's just like it's a fun, good learning experience coin, no harm, no foul kind of thing. He's still kind of doing that. But I think that's his way of incrementally prepping more of the normies for Dogecoin. And we've seen this because he has become more aggressive in defending Dogecoin simultaneously from its attackers, while taking further initiatives in his own business, i.e. giving Dogecoin holders special perks and discounts if you pay with Dogecoin, devoting a separate page on the Mavericks website with a big Dogecoin splash across it, things like that. He's not going to make moves like this unless he feels pretty strongly about it. So, yeah, that's just how I feel. Let's see how do you guys feel about what transpired? Let me know in the chat. I'd be happy to read some of your comments and take some questions, anything like that. And also, if you're brand new here, you're watching Steven Steele Live. I'm Steven Steele. Great to have you be a part of us tonight. I would encourage you to join our community. We've got an awesome community here. Everyone's just great. So hit subscribe if you haven't already. Hit all on that notification bell. Join our ranks. I stream very regularly, usually about 6 nights a week, 5 to 6 nights a week. Usually a little bit later in the night. It's a night show. I usually start around 9:30ish p.m. Central Standard. Scott says Cuban's best moment was when he encouraged Dogecoin adoption. A truly beautiful moment. Yeah, that was pretty cool. That was pretty cool. Sliding Edge coming in, $5 super chat. Thank you for the super chat. Has Mark Cuban referred to Doge as Dogecoin at any time tonight? I'm glad you brought that up because it's something I wouldn't have thought of. But I think since the Ellen show, he has learned the true pronunciation of Dogecoin, because I didn't hear any Dogecoin tonight. But I actually made a short little compilation of all the times that Mark Cuban and Ellen said Dogecoin in a little video I posted months ago when that happened. High Tech Lowlife, Steven Steele. I think that Mark Cuban redeemed himself at the end of the debate, saying he still likes Doge and that the younger generation loved as well. Oh yeah, he came through really strong at the end there. I think that's a really, really good point. Really good point. Yeah, he definitely came through strong at the end there. You know, that guy attacked that one of those Maxis, just couldn't leave it alone. He said, can you just do me one favor? Stop talking about Dogecoin. Don't bring up Dogecoin again, blah, 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 this, that, the other thing. And he's like, no, I'm not going to stop talking about it because people love it. It's successful in my business model. My kid likes it as well, and my kid also likes Ethereum. Peace. He says I also bought Ethereum for him. Later, guys. So I think he went out very strong. Bad Sheep, welcome to the channel. Thoughts on Shiba Inu coin? You know, people ask me about this a lot. Personally, I'm not invested in it. I put a small amount in just to make a quick profit, and then I put that back into more Dogecoin. That's what I did with it. But it's a project that, you know, someone being so bullish on Dogecoin, it branded itself out of the gate as the Dogecoin killer. I mean, what am I supposed to think of it? You know, but I wish you the best. I mean, if people that if Sheeb's your bag, I wish you the best with it. It's just not one that I'm super bullish on, but I wish you the best with it. Yeah. Yeah, it's a token on the ERC20, I think so. Yeah, I know technically the leash reward token is actually what the Dogecoin killer. I mean, at that point, it's just semantics to me, though. I mean, it doesn't matter to me. Like, you know, sorry about that. I knocked my camera over. You know, you named it an associated spin-off project to it, the Dogecoin killer. It's, you know, tomato. But either way, if it's your bag, if you're into it, you're into it. It's fine. It's fine. It's not worth getting into fights over. Sorry, I'm fixing my camera. The one thing I hate about my camera, it doesn't come with the Logitech Brio. It doesn't come with a clip that you can fasten to your computer monitor. So you just kind of got to balance it on the top and hope you don't rattle it. I mean, what kind of design is that? Okay, I'm back. Grab some Velcro for that camera. That's actually a really good idea. That's actually a really good idea. Yeah. But it looks like I have to fix the proportions. I just realized. There we go. Now it's fixed. Okay. Duct tape, Steven. Yes. DuckTales. Slide Edge coming with $2. Camera falling during live broadcast equals Bob Newhart. I love Bob Newhart, man. I love the Newhart show. And then they, from the 70s, then they revived it. I think it was in the 90s. They revived it, just called, maybe it's just called Newhart. But that was good too. Is Bob Newhart still alive? Probably not, but he might be. One of the greats, one of the absolute greats, Bob Newhart. So funny. Yeah, kind of. That's true. That's fair. That's fair, Celeste. Probably have to open the base and tighten it. I looked on instructions on it. I'll give another look, but I seriously have tried about everything I know how. It's like a vice grip. I'm not going to pick it up now, but I will double check on it. High Tech, thank you for the suggest. suggest. Sound gods, I appreciate it, but just please understand, I need to practice a certain degree of discretion in terms of things like location. I've received anything from death threats to disturbing phone calls and things of this nature. So, yeah. Rock Lobster coming in at $10 super chat. Thank you, Rock Lobster. Be careful not to become what you hate. Great reminder. And a reason I ditched Twitter and stick to Instagram. Yes, yes. Y'all take care. Gotta go. Cheers, y'all. Great message from Rock Lobster. Thank you so much, Jesse. Appreciate you, man. And I totally get it. I totally get what you're saying there. And thank you for the super chat. And thank you for being such an awesome member of the community here. And Rock Lobster, I don't know if you follow me on Twitter. Let me know what your Twitter is. DM me, so make sure I'm following you back. Anyone else on Instagram? I've been more active on Instagram lately. I don't have a ton of followers there yet, so anyone who's on Instagram, give me a follow over there. I'd love to stay connected with as many of you guys over there as well, okay? So I'm just going to put my Instagram link in the chat. Yeah, Twitter is a cesspool, yeah. Steven Steele, make Nick Balls holding it during your next broadcast for penalty of losing your bet. I owe Nick a Steven Steele live hoodie, so I'll be sending that out to him this week. Hey, Steven Steele, I followed. Oh, awesome. Good to see you, Casanova. Good to see you, man. Yeah, of course I remember you, dude. You're in here all the time. I know who you are. Yeah. Celeste says Twitter's a double-edged sword. Yeah, Twitter can be very enjoyable too, but like Celeste said, it's exactly it. It's a double-edged sword. It's a double-edged sword. I'll get my son to follow you. Thank you, Serial Schiller. By the way, I love your name. Serial Schiller is a hilarious handle. I like that. I like that. But wow, what a firestorm of a debate, guys. I mean, there's no ifs, ands, or buts. That was clearly a much more of a very spirited debate rather than a conversation. That was a straight up debate. No question about it. No doubt about it. Clicked on Steven Steele Linktree. Where's your OF? Oh, that's funny. Never happened. Never happened. I'm afraid my OF would be very, very boring and pedestrian compared to what sort of content usually is associated with that platform. Yeah. But, you know, I really do think something's got to give in terms of the mainstream social media platforms, between Twitter, between Facebook and IG and whatever else. You know, we do need some vibrant alternatives that value things like freedom of speech a bit more, and also have more consistent, just consistent ethos in terms of what's enforced and what's not, things like that. I mean, Twitter's kind of funny. It's just kind of like you can literally see, just be scrolling and see videos of girls sticking things up their hoo-has, but if you express the wrong political persuasion, or you know, slip up and use a word that's not viewed as, you know, perhaps politically correct enough for the current year, you're done, you know. So it's just interesting. And no disrespect to those sort of content creators, mind you. Just want to make that clear. You know, you do you.
Yeah, I mean, Jack Dorsey is arguably a Bitcoin maximalist to a certain degree. I mean, you saw a lot of that tension when Elon joined them on the B Word conference, which was just basically a 4-way Zoom meeting talking about Bitcoin and cryptocurrency and its effect on the future and where it's headed, things like that. Jack did not want to even utter the word Dogecoin. I mean, he didn't even not want to acknowledge it once, and Elon brought it up over and over again, and he did not even want to address it or acknowledge it. It was very, very clear that Jack Dorsey is no fan of Dogecoin in any capacity, which is very unfortunate because I think it could do very well in terms of if they extended that tipping option on Twitter so people could tip in Dogecoin. I guess there's a slight chance it might happen in the future. I mean, maybe if enough of us, I don't even know if that would do it, but I think it was a great, excellent step for it that you can tip in Bitcoin on Twitter now. I love that. I think it's awesome, but I think a lot more people would tip in Dogecoin. Sorry, I'm just got to text someone back real quick. I wish Elon and Satoshi took out millions. Yeah. Last comment about Doge was pretty. The last oh yeah, by one of the hosts. It was. That's the thing. They just kept going out of their way. HL. They just kept going out of their way to really just aggravate and insult Dogecoin. The specific animosity towards Dogecoin from the Bitcoin Maxis just had such small dick. It has such small dick energy about it, in my opinion. It's just like, you guys are the biggest boy on the block. You far and away have the largest market cap in the world in terms of cryptocurrency. An incredible store of value, no doubt about it. I do think that Bitcoin's going to get to eventually 300,000 and beyond. I think that's incredibly highly likely. And I encourage people to, make it a part of their portfolio, to a degree. You got to do what's best for you. But I love Bitcoin. I just think that Dogecoin solves some very pressing emerging issues in terms of needing a quicker and cheaper and more accessible digital currency for the retail space to be used in an everyday way for large swaths of people. Bitcoin's not there. I'm not sure if it can get there, particularly since it has such a hard cap. That's one thing that really wasn't brought up in this debate that I wish would have been made. What happens when Bitcoin runs out? What happens when Bitcoin runs out? How many people on this planet will be able to afford a decent amount of Bitcoin? And then they turn into, then we can just keep fractionalizing and fractionalize. The average person's not going to walk in the store and go through figure out all these hyper fractionalizations, and they're not going to buy and sell that way either. I don't see it happening. And then you're just going to fractionalize for eternity, where Dogecoin will never have that problem because it has, in my opinion, the most responsible way of encouraging mass sustained retail utility by having a soft cap of 5 billion a year. Yeah, he just straight up said, stop talking about Doge. And on the way out, Mark Cuban said, no. No, I will not stop. So anyway, let's check on Doge X. Those of you who aren't familiar, Doge X is a NFT project that I'm involved in. Obviously, it's a Doge-centric project in theme. It's doing extremely well. 95% minted now, guys. It's down to just a little bit over. It's 511 left right now. So just about 500 left from a 10,000 mint. So it's right on the tail end. Minting is really picked up, and I told you that was going to happen on the tail end of this. I told you that there's going to be kind of a gold rush for these once we got down to the last 10-15%. Here we are now. We're literally down to the last 5% available. The floor is raising, the community is growing, and things are just starting to get exciting now, in my opinion. This is where the excitement really starts. So that's good to see. And so yeah, a lot of traded volume. The traded volume right now is at about 100, almost 170 ETH, going on almost 2,500 owners, which is really good, healthy looking numbers there. One of the other ultra rares just today or yesterday, I think it was last night, sold for $30,000. Yes, one of the ultra rares just sold for $30,000 in ETH. Sorry, $30,000 worth of ETH. So, let's see here. True. Crypto cap market's so small. Used to be a world currency, and before it gets there, the current coins are going bonkers. Oh, and then also in NFT news, Jungle Freaks by Trolsley. So this gentleman, Mr. Trolsley, he's a legendary Hustler magazine cartoonist by the name of George Trolsley, and he's been the cartoonist for Hustler magazine for like 40 years, about that. And so he was consigned to do a full NFT line of characters, 10,000 different unique hand-drawn NFTs. And to me, I really like the character of old school character, old school animation, with hand-drawn, each NFT hand-drawn. I thought that was super impressive, and has a lot of that gritty, kind of like 80s cartoon, that like an 80s cartoon vibe on the aesthetic of it, which to me has a lot of character. So I like the project. I think, to me, that project has all the markers of being one of those blue check projects. I think Jungle Freaks is probably going to go on to be one of the big ones, real big ones. So they totally minted out too. The floor price is rapidly coming up now that things are minting out and settling and everything like that. So that's pretty cool too. Dogex, awesome NFT project, baby. Yeah, the Dogex community has really been growing. The enthusiasm there has really been growing. It's just good to see people super engaged, super involved, and just having fun. I mean, in addition to, making good investments and with good returns, you want to have fun, right? You want to have fun. Oh my gosh, Dogex says I have 72. You have 72, bro? Holy smokes, you are the ultimate. I think you're the biggest Dogex whale. You're the biggest Dogex whale. You're the biggest Dogex whale for sure. The only other person I know that had any close to that, about half of that, was Sadia Slay. She has like 38 or something like that, but you got her blown out of the water, my friend. So yeah, trying to think if there's anything else. Yeah, I didn't even get to any of the news stories tonight. Just kind of shooting the breeze with Nick, and then this debate happened between Mark and the Bitcoin Maxis. It's just kind of, we took a different road tonight, but it was a fun one. It was a fun one. You never know. You never know what's going to happen when you go live, right? All right, guys. Well, I've been on here for about 2.5 hours. I've been going, saying my butt and my back need a break. I need a break. So, but I want to thank each and every one of you guys for tuning in. If you haven't already subscribed, I invite you to do so. And we'd love to see you back. Love to see you back. Love to have you engage and join our awesome community here. Again, thank you everyone so much. Thanks for tuning in. Hope you had fun. Hope you got something out of it. And stay positive. Stay positive. And we are going to keep doing bigger and better things. Believe it. Until next time, this is Steven Steele signing out.
Just a piece of